to senior reporter Spamandla Goke at NASREC, who's been following the developments around the NEC meeting of the ANC. That's a National Executive Committee meeting that was supposed to take place from 2 o'clock, but it did, and it was a very short meeting. And then after was Paul Mashatile, the TG, the Treasurer General of the ANC, briefing the media. Spamandla, we are there. The meeting has not happened because they want the officials of the ANC to look at the report and then call another meeting of the NWC and then the NEC again.
Technically, the meeting did take place. It was very brief, very short. It adjourned, and the resolution was, hang on, why did you bring this thing to us as the National Executive Committee of the ANC? You ought to have started by giving this report to the officials of the ANC, and the officials of the ANC ought to have discussed it at length and then refer it to the National Working Committee of the ANC. Why did you pass all those structures of the ANC before coming to the highest decision-making body, which is the National Executive Committee? So the meeting did sit, did convene, but it was very brief and it adjourned, and the resolution was let it go through all the processes in terms of organizational protocol and the way of doing things from the officials to the National Working Committee and then eventually the NEC. But the tricky part here is that there is no time for the ANC. In terms of the parliamentary process, it is envisaged that that report will be tabled and debated in Parliament on December 6. If you check now, the ANC doesn't have time. It simply means this weekend the officials of the ANC will need to meet, study the report, refer it to the National Working Committee and convene the NEC meeting. All of that has to happen within this weekend in order for the parliamentary process to, if and when it comes, then the ANC is ready. So it's going to be a very busy weekend. We are told that inside the meeting there was nothing much to talk about. Others are viewing this as a time delaying tactic to say it's trying to buy time for ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa by sending it to the officials, sending it to the NWC. Those who are calling for him to resign, they will not have a leg to stand on because they will be told that organizational processes are underway, while the president and his allies are still trying to figure out how to maneuver around this legally and politically. Perhaps let's take a listen to what Paul Mashatile, who is the Treasurer General of the ANC, also acting in terms of the office of the Secretary General of the ANC, had to say about why the meeting adjourned.
Okay, we don't have that bite ready yet, Spamandla, as it's just been live on air. But Spamandla, just to ask you, I mean, what is your sense? I mean, the ANC, the way it's behaving, and this is from the outside, this is a view from the outside, is that they were not prepared for that panel report, despite the fact that several weeks ago, the former president of the ANC, Thabo Mbeki, asked in that famous clip that went viral, what will happen if the panel finds that the sitting president may have a case to answer to ahead of our conference? And they don't to have answered that by addressing it in the same, if it happens, this will be our crisis management plan. This is what will have to unfold. They seem to have been caught napping.
Indeed, and it will be naive to suggest that they were not aware that this outcome may come. It's a question of how they planned to deal with it. Perhaps they would have hoped for the better, that the outcome would have been favorable to the president, and others will say, but in such situations, you look at all possible scenarios and you decide what to do in the event, as former President Thabo Mbeki asked that, very important question, what do we do? That's the question they ought to have answered back then while anticipating and waiting for this report to be issued, to say if it's not in our favor, what do we do? How do we navigate around this? Especially because if you look at the time frame and the processes that need to unfold in Parliament, because this will be a parliamentary process, you check. The report was released end of November 30, and December 6 was set down as the date, whereas that report will be tabled and debated in Parliament. You wouldn't have enough time to deal with the matter, especially if you've got long processes of the ANC, including back-to-back meetings of the officials, the National Working Committee and the NEC. It's something that they ought to have anticipated. If they did not, then one would say it was suicidal on their part. But there is a view which says they were expecting it and they had a strategy in place that this is how they were going to deal with it, as we see ANC National Chairperson there, Gwere Mantashe, with Paul Mashatile, two officials of the ANC that I see here. We understand that Deputy President David Mabuza is still within the vicinity of this meeting venue. His motorcade or convoy is still around here, and I'm trying to check which other NEC members are there. There is Begicele, and most of the people that are there are said to be allies of President Cyril Ramaphosa of the governing African National Congress, and they will breathe a sigh of relief after this, because at least it gives them time in a form of a couple of days to go back, regroup, close ranks and see what they do. On the other side, those who are President Ramaphosa's detractors are saying, come Sunday or Monday when that NEC meeting is convened again, we are going to call for the departure of President Cyril Ramaphosa. And if we end up in parliament with the parliamentary process, when the time comes to vote, those who are not supporting President Ramaphosa within the ANC say they will vote with their conscience. They will use their vote to make their mark, to say he must be impeached, he must go.
Thank you very much, Phamandla Goke, for that latest update there at Nasrec, as we're looking at those live visuals of a number of senior ANC NEC officials, and several of whom, of course, are also government ministers, like Begicele there, walking away with Paul Mashatile, the Treasurer General. Begicele is a Minister of Police, as we know. We'll keep tabs on this one. What we do now know is that the ANC does not have the time. The time is of essence in addressing its processes urgently, because the 6th of December is just next week, Tuesday, today being the 2nd. So this weekend, as Phamandla Goke was saying, they're going to have to really make sure that all these processes that they say must unfold now actually do happen. And then we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that, and look ahead to what's going to happen on Tuesday in Parliament. There is no time. This is an urgent matter. The world is watching, and they want to see how swiftly this will be resolved, because no matter how you look at it, there is a huge black cloud currently hanging over, reputationally and otherwise, the head of the sitting president, that's Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, over since the report, the Phala Farm report, was issued by that independent panel in Parliament the other day that was headed by former Chief Justice, that's Judge Sandile Ngcobo.